how the sand slipped through the opening.
Hi, this is Mike.
And their hands reached
And
for the
welcome to our first online Transition on Tap.
In our, because of COVID, in our dining room.
And we're just going to say this is the first of a new generation of Transition on Tap that is all uber casual, coming from our home. We would like to send a shout out to Emily, who got Transition on Tap started like in restaurants and bars, talking about climate change, talking about things we can do to make our planet a better place out in the public. Thank you for getting that started, Emily. And thank you for supporting us and getting this next generation of that event going. We went out today and got some delicious food from El Norteño. We're sipping delicious brew that we acquired from East Lake Liquor.
Well, now we've transitioned to
Herbal tea, but
chamomile tea from the front yard.
but we did
A bit of a lightweight.
imbibe in beer from East Lake Liquor. You know, the goal of this event each month going forward is to casually get together in our homes and talk about the things that we can do to make our lives and our planet a better place, to transition to a new future. And so we welcome you to join us each month. We're really excited about this first event because we have two really special things going on. The first is we just got done watching a remarkable film called Kiss the Ground. And we're going to talk about that. And we're also being joined by one of the founders of Transition Longfellow, Leslie MacKenzie. And we're going to talk about the film.
Yay, Leslie! Yay, I've seen you for so long.
We're going
We
to
are
talk.
thrilled to have you.
We're going to talk about the film. We're going to talk about Transition Longfellow, what we can do to make our world and our lives a better place. We're going to drink beer, tea, wine. We may roll a doobie. You know,
I'm knitting a sock.
and when I say roll a doobie, I mean.
Oh, I see.
And when I say roll a doobie, I mean of Susie Q, Mr. Flower Hemp, perfectly legal in 50 states now. We may do that. But anyway, welcome you all. Thanks for joining us. And I hope you spread the word that we will be doing these get-togethers every month going forward. And we have to just say with that, welcome, Leslie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So fun. What a great idea. And a great movie.
I think you're drinking some sort of red wine.
I am.
Cheers. What did you think of the film?
I loved it. I loved it. You know, for probably 9 years, Transition Longfellow hosted a movie night at a local church every month, except for December. So it was always a great way to get together for a wonderful potluck. People in Longfellow really know how to do a good potluck.
Yes, indeed. Yes, I really miss those. I feel too.
Yeah, it was a great way to get together and socialize. So this is the best we can do at this time. I'm glad that we're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that I get to be an hour away, but I can still participate.
That's right. That's right.
What was your favorite part of the film? And we're talking about Kiss the Ground, narrated by Woody Harrelson. I thought, I'm trying to find words to describe it, but I never thought I would see a film like that in my life, even though I thought about all those things for so long, you know?
I thought it was very much like the previous transition movie, but it was done really, really well.
Symphony of the Soil. Symphony of the Soil.
Yeah, or also the the French film Tomorrow, which was about the transition movement, because all of these concepts are relate to permaculture and very much transition.
Right.
The I watched it with my husband, and I said, "You got to see this part about keep poop in the loop."
Poop in the loop.
Yeah.
I love that part.
And for me, the part that was most interesting was, I have to say, it kind of hit me like right out the bat, when Woody Harrelson, is talking into the microphone, and it's like up close and intimate and personal. And he's like, I've pretty much given up hope. And I have been there so many days and so many times, and how the film just slowly walked you through the end when he had hope, and why it's important that we hold on to that hope and that we do the things that film recommends. It just had me at the beginning and walked me all the way through. I was hooked from the beginning.
I love that it went all over the world. I loved seeing what they were able to do in Haiti.
Yeah.
I loved seeing what they were doing in China.
Yeah.
Large scale.
Oh, that incredible
Right.
transformation in that big part in China. Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. And in South Africa, where they're bringing the desert back to life.
Great.
Yeah.
Right.
And North Dakota,
Yeah.
I mean,
Ironically.
seriously,
Like-
something that's
South
very-
Dakota, where I'm from.
Yeah, but I mean the stark trend, contrast between the gentleman's, restorative farming techniques and what the land looked like versus what his neighbor's land looked like, who is doing traditional, agriculture, industrial agriculture. So
Yeah, I
Right.
saw that and thought, I don't know that I'd want to be his neighbor.
the guy would fly over.
Now I'm in the movies and it's not so good.
Right, exactly. And to me, it was interesting. I have these notes that I've written down, and like there were parts of it to me that were so much like, oh my God, this is like high school biology 101. And the vast majority of the people on the planet still don't understand it. Like literally, like it gets down to that basic stuff. There is no really arguing with the facts in this movie. It's like basic biology that like farmers don't understand about farmland. Like honest to God, that's where we're at. But at the same time, it's like the solution is so simple. Like it's that simple, and it seems really straightforward to me. Like, what was your reaction, or how did you take that in?
What are you addressing?
That
The whole
image
movie, the
where
whole-
they had the 4 different actions that you need to take.
yeah,
And one of them was no-till.
Yeah.
What was, I wish I
well,
had
I'm
the
talking
economy.
specifically like about the biology, like that the earth and the soil has got all these, it's like an ecosystem, and like you don't want to ruin it, and if you pour chemicals on it, you're killing it. Like, I'm sorry, that's like basic biology. It's simple stuff. Like, how can we as a society have not absorbed that and figured that out yet?
Well, we actually didn't know it. I mean, some of these things we are actually still learning about. So it is, some of this is actually fairly
Well,
new science.
I'm sorry, I read the very first adult book I ever read in my life was Silent Spring, and I understood it back then, and I was in junior high school.
Well,
And so I'm sorry, as a species, this information was available to us since I was in junior high school, and collectively we still don't understand it yet. And it's basic biology 101.
Well, I think one of the things that was emphasized, though, in the movie was people relied on sort of traditional agricultural practices that were handed down generation to generation to generation. So this was stuff that was pretty commonplace. It's in the movie, they emphasized it as a result of World War II, and a sequence of events that came out of that basically built, or shifted industry from war making, to industrial farming. And so I think that, a lot of this information is probably things that people inherently knew just based on experience and how to sustain the land. I think it's more recent that, we've shifted away from that.
We've
So
lost
it's really,
we've lost touch with that.
well,
We've lost touch with it. We knew it back then, and we don't know it now, and we need
I
to
know,
learn it.
like after the Dust Bowl, and
Well, a lot
yeah,
a lot of farmers in the Dust Bowl didn't know anything. They weren't farmers
I know,
before
but
they went there.
afterwards, we learned it afterwards. And my father signed up for the soil conservation plan, where you rotated your land, or you'd leave it fallow for a couple of years, and then I mean, he got paid by the government not to grow crops on that land, to leave it fallow.
yeah.
It was like in the 60s, probably. Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
there was
It's also
something going on, but probably the knowledge, the basic biology knowledge of what's going on in the soil itself, probably was not generally understood at all. Right.
Yeah, and I think we're relearning or reconnecting with a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills that were part of sustainable, a simpler life. I know in our own lives, we've learned a lot about gardening, canning things, reusing things, all of fixing things, those kinds of things.
We did all of that. We did all of that.
Our parents knew more than we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
with those of us who all moved away from farm and into the city, it's like, we kind of lost touch with some of that. I'm trying to get back to it now with my gardening, but yeah.
Well, so Leslie, I'm get back to you. I'm curious, what was your favorite part of the film?
Gosh, I really like Transition, which covers a wide range of actions. That this movie covered a wide range of actions. Not only did it talk about the things that we can do to improve our soil, but it talked about composting, talked about food waste, talked about human manure. It was really wide ranging.
It talked about our purchases at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, like every choice that we make has an impact. I thought, well, yes, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I loved that, where I think the fellow was from San Francisco, and he was talking about choosing how you choose the food that you're going to buy, and are you choosing to support regenerative farming? And that's a bit difficult because only 5% of farms are regenerative, are operated in that way of building the soil. And how are you going to know? It'll be really wonderful when we have some organization that certifies that, so we actually know when we're buying that. Jean came with me. Jean, do you remember that we used to go and visit the Richer family farm?
Yeah, I went with you once, yes.
Yeah, in the fall. So Transition Longfellow used to take people to visit farm where they have cows, pigs, chickens, and ducks, I think. And we could see firsthand how, and the farmer would talk to us about the business of farming and living on a farm and the economics of farming. And his farm had gone from conventional, where the cows were all in the barn, to one year they said, we're not going to keep doing this. They stopped giving antibiotics to the animals. They moved them outside. They fed them they had a pretty nice sized farm, and they would move them from place to place. So they always had fresh grass. They had organically grown hay from the neighbors over the winter. And he said they never had another vet bill. 5 years in, their animals were incredibly healthy. And I had never seen happy cows. We literally saw cows cavorting. They kicked up their heels. And
Yes.
it was a beautifully run farm. And he explained how, in fact, he could even show us what happened to the grass in the places where the cows had been. And you could see a visible difference in the lushness of the grass.
Well, and it's not, and the film explained it so well, it's not just the manure, it's the cropping of the grass by the grazing, it's the impact of the hooves on the earth. I mean, our cropland evolved in cooperation with ungulates who grazed those lands. They need to be there to keep that system working the way it was evolved. You know, and how arrogant of us as humans to think that we can make that system better by moving the animals to feedlots and, you know, separating the crops off to these big giant monoculture fields and trying to control and micromanage every little aspect of it. You know, it's a disaster waiting to happen by doing that, if you think about it. Like fighting against nature instead of cooperating with it and working the way that it was designed to be in the first place. I mean, come on. To me, it just seems like we're back to like biology 101. We've sort of, in all kinds of ways, broken the biological system by our agricultural systems. And what we have to do is learn how to put those pieces back together, I think. And I thought the film articulated that in a profoundly beautiful and inspiring way.
Leslie, I have a question, because also one of the focuses of the film had to do with climate change and the sequestration of carbon dioxide that takes place in the soil, and that the soil's ability to sequester and reduce our CO2 in the air is even greater than any of the other technologies, you know, green technologies that are being proposed out there. What's your thought on that?
Me, yeah.
Sorry, I missed.
Well, and
Thought
to
on
me,
that.
it gets back to this, what they talked about, the legacy load of carbon. Like, you know, this idea that even if we eliminate our emissions, we have this legacy load of carbon that we've put into the atmosphere. And so like just simply switching over to, you know, solar power and stuff isn't enough, because we've got to sequester carbon in the soil to take up that legacy carbon that we've put out. And how properly managed agriculture can do that.
And actually properly managing all of our land.
Yeah.
So if everybody, you know, I'm mindful of people who live in the city. They have small lots, but there's a lot of people and a lot of small lots. And there are things that everybody can do. Yes, people who live out in the country can do more. And honestly, I'm really thankful for people who are willing to put their time and money and care into properly managing larger tracts of land. They're doing amazing work, and we need to protect larger bits of land, like through land trusts. But within the city, there's also things you can do, and one of the most important ones would be getting rid of your lawn and moving toward plants that have deeper roots. Because one of the things they pointed out in that movie is that those roots kind of disintegrate over time, and their carbon, they're moving down, disintegrating and moving down into the soil. If you have really deep-rooted plants, they're spreading out those tendrils far underground. Same with trees. Your trees are storing carbon. They're storing it above ground. They're storing at least as much below ground as they are storing above ground, with lots and lots of little root tendrils. So switching from grass that has really tiny roots to deep rooted plants and adding more woody shrubs and trees. Very helpful. Those are some of the ways that you're really going to get bang for your buck in storing carbon in the city. Also, stop fertilizing. Stop using artificial fertilizers. Not don't fertilize. Yes, use compost. There's other natural fertilizers too, but when you use artificial fertilizers, you're feeding the plant and not the soil. And in fact, you're kind of breaking the connection that the plant had to the soil. So it's actually damaging to the soil. So looking, and I offer a class through Master Gardeners called Climate Change in Your Yard and Garden. And as part of that class, one of the resources I offer to people is a link to another extension service that has a worksheet on types of organic fertilizers that you can use depending on what your soil needs. Because they talked about pesticides as one of the dangers that breaks that connection of plant and soil. Fertilizers also does that, artificial.
Well, that was one of my big insights to the film, actually. I have known for, decades that my gut is an ecosystem of, microbes that I need to keep healthy by eating healthy foods. I have known that our food systems are grown in, ecosystems that we often spray with toxic stuff. I've not fully made the connection that when I consume like Roundup sprayed chemicals, I'm killing the microbiome in my gut in the exact same way that we're killing it when we spray it in the field, thereby making me sick. I knew that eating that stuff wasn't good. I didn't understand it in exactly the specific way that I now understand from watching this film. So I'm really happy about that. And it gets back to like basic stuff. I can't believe we haven't figured this stuff out sooner than this. We're supposedly the most evolved species on the planet, and we're trying to figure this stuff out still. I'm just gonna say.
One of the things that one of their speakers talked about were 1% human and 99% bacteria.
Right, yeah, right, exactly, yes.
That was interesting. Hi, John. You're on mute, but haven't seen you for a while. Nice to see you.
Yeah, he doesn't probably know he's on mute.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good. So anyway, any other thoughts about the film before we say goodnight? I loved it. I know you've got some other resources you'd like to point us to for more information. Do you want to put a plug out for some of those?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about what people can do locally. So, that movie took us all over the world. We don't really have a way to influence what's happening in China, but we have a way to influence what's happening here, both in our own communities and households and within our state. one of the things they talked about was how buying the right meat, buying from a farmer who's using regenerative methods. And the Main Street project is one, George, that you're going to be interested in. That one is communities of color, and they focus on healing the land with chickens. And they deliver chickens into the city. So I believe they're located around Northfield. I have personally bought chickens from them, and they're fabulous. They had a relationship with a church near you where they were delivering. So Main Street project, looking at how, and they're actually free range chickens. They really are outdoors walking around.
Yeah.
There's on October 8th, there is a virtual soil health field day that is taking place. They're going to do a virtual tour of Pam Arnold's farm, salt and pepper farm in Scandia, Minnesota. So about an hour away from you and right next door to me. And they're going to talk with experts about soil health from the Department of Agriculture, the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, and Washington Conservation District. And you can find that, I'm going to be sending something to you, so you'll be able to put a link to this. But you can find it in the Facebook event.
I'll put a link down below.
Okay. And a lot of what they talked about in the movie was permaculture and permaculture principles. Whether they use that term permaculture or not. The Minneapolis Institute of Art teaches permaculture. They have classes there. And then Rob Czernik with Powderhorn Feed Company, he also runs Twin Cities PDC. So he does, I don't know if he did it this year with COVID, but he usually runs a summer-long permaculture design course. So that's one place, 2 places in the city where you could learn about permaculture principles, which is
Rob's organization again, you said was what?
Powderhorn Feed Company.
Thank you.
So he produces chicken feed, and he runs the Twin Cities PDC.
Okay.
Permaculture design course. And then another thing that people can do, even if they have just some small pieces of land, is how you invest your money matters. And there's a couple organizations that you might want to look into if you want to be supportive of new farmers, of new ways of farming. One is Slow Money Minnesota. And they have a Grow a Farmer fund. They also have a loan program for farmers. So helping existing farmers and helping new farmers to improve their farming. And then the Land Stewardship Project and their Farm Beginning program. It's really hard to enter into that field. So it's hard for existing farmers to make the switch from conventional to regenerative. They may take a hit for a couple of years as their soil is healing. They may have to buy different equipment. They're going to have to learn new techniques. So it's kind of difficult to do that, but new farmers coming in may want to make that switch. They may be more able to make that switch.
But I just have to say, I've known people at the Land Stewardship Project for 20 years and I've spoken to and met multiple farmers who've used that program to transition their farms. And I know it gets easier and easier all the time. And they've got new efforts in the works all the time to share and transition equipment together. Absolutely, Land Stewardship Project is a great resource for people who want to figure out how to grow soil in a humane way, save the planet, and grow the best food you can possibly grow. Great folks there. I just love them.
So we in the city can help those people who are out there doing that work on our behalf, growing our food to make it change. by supporting organizations like that. There's a woman who has visited Transition Longfellow a few times. Her name is Marita Bushold. I don't know if you remember her, Jean.
No.
She lives in the neighborhood next to ours.
Ah,
And she has a website called Just Food and Water. And she's working on creating a community food and water and farm bill. And it would be worth following up on what she's doing as they try to create ways to move public dollars toward meeting the challenges of climate change and cooling our planet. So that her bill is dedicated to public investments to provide the economic tools to create locally adaptive, regenerative food and water economies.
wow.
So something to do legislatively.
Well, thank you, Leslie, so much for joining us tonight. This has been a great conversation. It was a wonderful movie. I'm so glad to have had this be the first of this new online Transition on Tap. Hope you folks will join us each month as we do this. Also have to say, meant to mention, we were eating food from El Norteño. One of the reasons we love supporting them is they're the ones who taught us how to build our potato cages that we use to grow our potatoes, because they were talking to us about how they grow their own food for their restaurant. And they taught us how to build these beautiful potato cages that, you know, we had a crappy potato year this year, but most years we get a huge, you know, harvest out of those cages. And they have amazing Mexican food, I just have to say. So shout out to them for that.
Yeah. Yeah, the potato cages are a novel idea when space is a premium like it is in the city.
Yeah, you want to grow a bunch of beautiful food. Potato cages are the thing. We actually have a video at the Our Urban Farm website for how to build those cages and grow a lot of potatoes in a small cage, small space, thanks to El Norteño. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Great first effort. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to everyone who made that film. Wow, it's gonna take me a while to absorb all that stuff. I'm inspired. I was feeling like Woody Harrelson at the beginning of the film, kind of like done and letting go, and not so much anymore. So
A lot of encouragement in that
thank
movie.
you all. Hope to see you next month.
Right. Thank you, Mike and George, for doing this. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So good to see you, Leslie.
Nice seeing you. And now I'm gonna look up the tomato cages.
Potato cages. Yeah, they're lovely. They're great. Bye-bye.